Let's hit the music there. Forgot all about the music. There you go, the joys of live podcasting. 10 minutes of dead air, and then our 10 seconds of dead air, then we bring in the theme tune. Never mind. It's the joys of being live, and the joys of having a fairly busy and shitty week. So there we go. Anyway, you're tuned to the Friday Night Football Pitch with myself, Cammy McDonald, and my co-host Dennis Newell. And very shortly we'll be joined by Graham Duthie. Graham, who has been on before, of the Locker Room podcast. We'll talk Liverpool, we'll talk Hearts, we'll talk Scotland, and as always we'll look ahead to the fixtures coming up for the week, and then we'll pretty much fly through tonight. Dennis, good evening, how you been?
Good evening, Cammy. I'm fine. Yourself? I think.
Aye, not so bad. As I say, it's been a pretty rough week, so a pretty rough last few days. I was saying to you off air there, so aye, it's been better, but as I say, we'll batter through. Thankfully, Clyde are playing at Elgin tomorrow, so I ain't going up for that one. So it's I'll eventually get some Saturday time with the family, hopefully.
There's a good chance it could be off, going to be the weather forecast.
Yeah, I think so, certainly in terms of the travel, but hey, never mind, it is what it is. How's yourself? How you been?
Okay, yeah, a bit cold this week. Heating on, just sit for about another 4 months, I suppose. Might just heat up a little bit on Sunday, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm okay, thanks. Yeah.
Good. Well, as I say, tonight we'll be looking back at Scotland. What a finish to the Nations League for our home country. Obviously, it's earned them a playoff place, and they're coming up against Greece, who obviously are just fresh from being in England's group. So we shall see how that goes. But as I say, we're joined tonight also by Graham Duthie, and that's Graham just getting ready to come in. So we'll quickly introduce him. Graham, how are we doing? Thanks for joining us again tonight.
I'm all right, guys. Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me back on again.
Good. Fresh from your own podcast.
Yeah, it was a very enjoyable show. Very good. And a lot of talk about Scotland and Hearts. So I feel quite fresh now after that.
Good. Well, what we're going to start with tonight is obviously talking Scotland as well here. Obviously, the Nations League has been fairly dire, fairly poor. In terms of results, I don't think the performances were necessarily that bad, but certainly hadn't been getting results. But the last two games, victories against Poland and Croatia. There you go. I'm sitting here, I've got Ukraine in my mind then. But it's seen them earn a playoff place, Graham.
Yeah, and it's weird because I mentioned not in the podcast I was just on that if you look back at the first few games in the Nations League, there was a lot of negativity. We had no points after 3 games. We've ended up with 7. I don't think it's been that bad. I think we've actually been performing quite well in the last few games. I was really impressed against Poland. I thought we created a number of chances. And I think if you look at it, the biggest thing for me is the emergence of Ben Doak. I am genuinely excited by this laddie. 19-year-old, and the fact that he doesn't have any fear. I like wingers that get the ball and just take people on and get to the byline, and he does that. And he doesn't care for reputations. If you look at the game against Guardiola, £77 million Guardiola cost from Man City, and he ripped him to shreds. I genuinely think Ben Doak is one of the most exciting talents I've seen. And for me, the last couple of Scotland games has been all about him. He's been exceptional. And to have that pace and that ability, if I'm Scotland, if I'm a player on that Scotland team, I'm looking at giving the ball to Ben Doak every time because he's so exciting. He gets fans off the edge of their seat. And I'm looking at this Greek game and thinking, do you know what? If I'm Tsimikas at left back, I'm worried because Ben Doak for me is such an exciting talent. I've been really impressed with Scotland the last few games, and I think now it should give Steve Clarke the credit he deserves. Whether it does, I don't know, but I think it should.
Dennis, I kind of much agree with Graham there, and I think that the media, obviously the media is going to be less on your back when you're getting results anyway, but I think I've sensed a kind of change almost the last few games, certainly in Scotland's style. They've been a bit more adventurous. Steve Clarke's brought in 2 or 3 younger players. You've not been alone in shouting for that, but Graham's right, the emergence of Ben Doak has been a highlight of these last couple of games.
Breath of fresh air. Boy, is it stunning. It's a long while since we've seen somebody that can go to the byline and get deliveries in. For years and years, nobody seems to go past defenders and deliver. He's doing better than that. He's going past the defender and then try to pick people out. brilliant. You know,
Yeah.
there was entertainment there. When you look at the last 10 games or whatever, it's not been great. It's been a poor watch. And the bottom line is, you know, we take a lot of credit from that. And to be honest, throughout that sort of a period where we've had Poland, Croatia, and the games home and away, I don't think, I said right at the beginning, we've got a team that's good enough to beat them and qualify. It would have been really sad if we'd ended up in fourth spot there. I really think more than that, but we have deficiencies, and that's the problem. You look at Lebanovsky wasn't playing, he was injured the other night. And I look at that and go, our defence wasn't really tested then. So it's a let out of jail, because as long as we go forward, I think we have a good chance and we score goals. But what we've also got to look at is, if we don't score goals, we're going out, because we are too deficient at the back. I thought Suter was outstanding, and he's another breath of fresh air. He's come on really well for Rangers, and he's done exceptional in these last couple of games. I think he just needs somebody to play beside him. I'm not going to go down the Hanley route again, because I've lambasted the guy for the last couple of years, or since he came into the Scotland team. And it speaks volumes that he's not even getting a game with Norwich.
Yeah.
Now, if you're not good enough for Norwich, you're not good enough for the Scotland team. It's as simple as that.
No.
So therefore, I look at it and I go, you know, I was trying to look through and see who we had missing in relation to who can play in there. Well, you've got the boy Henry, and you've also got Cooper. Where's Cooper ended up, Graham? Do you know where he's ended up? Is he just not being in the squad?
He certainly was at Leeds. That's yes.
But
you're right.
You know.
Yeah, you're right. There is players there that can fill in, but can take over Hanley's spot. The thing is, Graham, I mean, Scotland's under Clark particular, but they've recently had this sort of change of style almost, obviously. But I think Dennis and I are old enough to remember the sort of Craig Brown days when you're brought up on been hard to beat, tight at the back, no wanting to concede goals. Scotland have completely switched, and the likes in Scott McTominay coming forward, as you say, the boy Doak, and other players. We look far, far better and far more threatening coming forward. And it's good to see Steve Clark actually styling Scotland to play to the strengths of the players that he has.
Yeah, and I think he has learned lessons from the Euros. You know, that was disappointing. The Hungary game for me was the one that disappointed me most. That was really frustrating. But I think he has learned lessons. Whether he stumbled into this formation he's got now, I don't know. But I'm all for it. I think John Suter the last couple of games has been outstanding for me. Yeah. And I think that the one thing I would say, well, there's probably a couple of things I would say. The one thing I would say, I'm still not convinced by the forward options we got in terms of striker role. Lyndon Dykes hasn't scored. Dykes hasn't scored a goal this season. Lawrence Sankey's got one. Yeah. We don't have enough players coming through in the forward area. I thought Tommy Conway against Portugal, I don't really blame him. He got no chances at all. But we don't have a lot of options going forward. Che Adams is probably the one that maybe starts most weeks. But apart from that, we're looking at like John McGinn and Scott McTominay to score us goals, which they are doing. But we don't really have that forward player that's going to really get in against defenders and score a lot of goals. And the one other thing I would say as well, for me now, as a Hearts fan saying this, I think Craig Gordon's the number one. When Angus Gunn comes back, I think he's got a really tough role. Yeah. I think Craig Gordon's been exceptional the last couple of games. And it wasn't that long ago, you look back to the Finland game where he came on as a sub, which was just mental that he came on for that game. But right now, I think Craig Gordon's number one. I would rather have him in goal than Angus Gunn.
I think it's very, very hard to disagree.
Yeah. 2 points you mentioned there, you're spot on. I'll only finish with the defence. I was going to go through the rest of them that were relevant and irrelevant. Irrelevant is the midfield. Take care of any game. Absolutely, totally confident in the midfield we've got. Is a way back to the 70s, what I can remember. So that shows you how old I am. That basically that midfield is as good as any. And I'm not maybe going overboard when the likes of Souness and people like that were playing. But in the world of football that we live in now, not make a comparison to say the standard was as good then as it is now. But what I'm saying is the standard is poorer in my eyes, but we have got a better midfield to cope with that.
Yeah.
Get younger guys coming through, the McTominays, and you just look at what we've got overall. I'm really happy with the bulk of that midfield. But you're right, and the point I'm going to mention is up front, we've nothing. Absolutely nothing. Conway, I thought he was going to get more time. and more of a chance. I don't think he's given him it. And when the goal scorers that you're relying on, of Dykes and Shankland, are not doing it, you've got to go and get fresh blood in there. And that fresh blood's got to be given more of an outing than what he got. And also, I think he needs to go and find somebody, because we can't keep relying on the quality of the midfield to get us through games. If he keeps the same defence, as I say, central half position and a forward, two grey areas that we need to really strengthen. But seriously, I think that the squad in general are really good.
Yeah. Well, with the inclusion of Dykes, with the inclusion of Doak, obviously, Clark's shown that he's no fear to go into the championship down south. You know, obviously at Middlesbrough he's doing a fantastic job. So we know that there's players out there, you know. So it's just a matter, as you say, Dennis, of Clark going out and finding somebody to play at the back alongside Hanley. I think we're okay for full back, but as I say, central defence and just that striker position. Find these two, and I think Scotland are looking decent, Graham. Or Dennis.
Well,
one player I'd like to touch on. Oh, sorry, Dennis, on you go.
No, you go on. Mine's is irrelevant.
One player I'd like to touch on is Billy Gilmore. I love that laddie. I think he is an absolutely brilliant footballer. What I like about him is he always wants the ball. He will always take it, whether he's got a man on him or not. He always demands the ball. And if you look at the game against Poland, that was his pass. His first thought was, can I get this forward? He played it forward to Doak, and it was Doak's ball that led to the goal from McGinn. I think Billy Gilmore moving to Napoli alongside Scott McTominay has done him wonders. I think he is an absolutely exceptional footballer. And for me, if I'm Steve Clarke, I am building my team around Billy Gilmore, because he barely gives the ball away. And I think it's a well to see a Scotland midfielder actually do that. Callum McGregor, of course, retired, which is fine. But I genuinely think Billy Gilmore is such a quality midfielder, and we have to build the team around him.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think when you just going through the team, I think with Gilmore and that side and Doak, it took away some of the pain that Ralston could have felt, because the door's getting shut because we're playing in their last third, rather than Ralston have to charge up the park and then have to recover on it. So I think it helps Ralston as well with better players in front of him. And then you just look at the midfield that we've got. I mean, I'll go back to it again. Doak, Gilmore, McTominay, McGinn. You know, there's places there for other people as well. Okay, we've lost a few players with injury, like McGregor leaving the team. We touched on that last week. And then potentially you've got either Robertson or Tierney filling into the midfield. Tierney been out for a while. And then you've the other boy, Ferguson. And, of course, you have the boy, Patterson. So they're all missing. So then you say to yourself, we've got a really, really strong team. And all he's got to do is to do what he done at Kilmarnock. And that is to get them all gelling together and playing a bit better.
And that's as well not even talking about Lennon Miller, who's coming through at Motherwell.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I would certainly give him a run out. I know it's maybe a big game for him, but you've got to try these people. And
you know what's going to happen? He's going to get a move to one of the old firm, and then he'll start playing for Scotland. It's just typical. We all know that the kind of thing that does tend to happen. But looking ahead, obviously, Graham, we've got the game against Greece away and home against, obviously, a side who looked as though they were starting their campaign off really, really well, but kind of faltered a wee bit towards the end, culminating in the 3-0 defeat to England. But Scotland, with the squad they have, really do have to have a chance of still retaining their place in Group A or in Pot A, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Greece's last 10 games, they've won 6, drawn 1 and lost 3. Two of them were against England and Holland. They're not a bad side, and they did actually beat England at Wembley, so they won't be a bad side. But if we look at the group that we were in, Poland, Portugal and Croatia, I think they are better than Greece, and we've competed against all 3 of them. I think over the 2 legs, this is definitely a game that I think Scotland can win. And we have to go with confidence. What I like is the fact that the first game is away. If we go to Athens and get a decent result, we can definitely beat them at Hampden. It's very difficult for a Scotland fan to be optimistic, but I actually do feel optimistic. I genuinely think Scotland can win this game over 2 legs. I genuinely do. With the quality we've got, we just mentioned the players there. There is no reason that Scotland cannot win this over 2 legs. And I'm very, very confident. Of course, it'll slap me in the face, but I'm very confident.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a couple of games that we can get results from. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised we go to Greece and get a draw, and then, as you say, a victory at Hampden. And yeah, as I say, I think had we been saying that three months ago, you know, that they were going to be getting a playoff place, I think we'd have snatched your hand off for that, certainly. But now we're very, very confident, as you say, of probably getting a result from it, Dennis.
Can I ask
Sorry,
you guys
Graham, on you go.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Yep.
I asked this on my podcast earlier. Do you think the pressure is now off Steve Clarke? Because I think he was getting a lot of criticism after Euros. So I understand. But do you think the pressure is now lifted a little bit off him?
As I said earlier on, I think results alleviate that pressure, and he's had 3 decent results. You know, we were all critical of the fact that, as you say, he started the group with no wins and no points for 3 games. I think the last 3 games getting results has taken that pressure off him for certain, you know. So yeah, I feel as if the pressure has lifted from him for sure.
Well, he went in a terrible run. There's no question of doubt about it. And in Europe, when we played in the championship or the tournament, it was really, really poor. Now, if he'd went after that, I don't think anybody would have questioned it, right? After it, he's came back and we've hit the same run for a certain period of time. But like good strikers even, they hit bad form and they'll come back in again. That's why I'd never say, get rid of the ones we've got, just maybe get a bit of fresh blood in there, because they'll come around. The manager is in the same boat here. He's had that really poor run. He's been, what would you say, blessed with staying on. And he said the last 3 games, which are excellent. And rightly so, did we get victories in the last 2 and a draw, because the quality is there.
Yeah.
We have efficiencies, there's no question of doubt about it. And some of it was a hard watch. But if you look at it, a draw and 2 victories against, which I think is decent opposition. You know, they're no slouches. Mm-hmm. And I think, although you're saying, Graham, that you think Greece is not as good as them, I would totally agree. I don't think Greece are as good as Croatia and Poland. But when they've had that result against England quite convincingly, it was less than a month ago, I think that they've got a hard task in front of them. Then the jury would be out again. Without being the pessimist, he's got to get through the playoffs. That's it. That's when the jury's out again. But like we said last week, we'd love them to win at the weekend, as we said last week, and they did. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So there's always a test there for him, and he'll know that as a manager. I think he can get a bit grumpy because there was a lot of negativity, and the only negativity I've got is his team selection. When he should be out, rather than being too loyal to people, he should go out and just get some fresh people in there and see where it takes us. Instead of that, the people that we spoke about earlier there, they're the ones that could get him the sack. And if he shows loyalty, then he's only self to blame on that front. But certainly when the Greece game comes, which is the 20th away and then the 23rd at Hampden, I think you're right, Graham, getting the away tie out the road first, you then see what you've got in front of you. And there'll be a full house at Hampden. And I think they'll lift the roof off if we can go through there.
Yeah. How did it go in the previous podcast? What was the thoughts there?
It was kind of split. A few folk were still not backing Steve Clarke, and I kind of get it because the Euros is disappointing. But I think he's got credit at the bank, and I've said it before to the guys in the podcast as well that, and I do agree with what Dennis said there about the loyalty. I think at times he is a bit too loyal to players, and I get it because they got to certain positions. But I do think that he has learned lessons, and bringing guys like Ben Dokin, Tommy Conway, Ryan Gold, Lewis Morgan, I think he has learned lessons. And you look at the guys to come back, Lewis Ferguson, Kieran Tierney, for example, there's a very good squad there. And I think, honestly, I genuinely believe that if Steve Clarke can just be a bit more adventurous in games, we've got a very good squad there. You know, managing a national team, managing a league team is very different because you can't sign players. You've got to use what you've got. And it wasn't that long ago that we were talking about bringing guys like Anthony Gordon and Harvey Barnes in. I wasn't really for or against that. But I genuinely think that what we've got a very good squad there. And I think he has learned. and you look at the games that we just played the last few games, I mentioned it earlier, the fact that we started off with no wins and 3, and then we've got 7 points. There's definitely a progression there. And my worry is that if Steve Clarke does go, who's going to come in that's going to do better than that?
Yeah, I think that's the thing.
Let's be serious about it, though. The squad is good enough to progress. And I think maybe what we're touching on here is the frustration. If we don't make it, it must be pointed at the manager, because the talent's there. The talent's there, with the exception of 2 positions that we need to fill. And I would say they should be looked at seriously between now and playing the Greece game, at whose partner's suitor and who's going to go up front and try and get us a goal or 2. That is the 2 areas that I'm concerned with. So, if he can address that to some degree, then I have all the confidence in the world for him. I really do.
I know that there's also was it yesterday or the day before that the pots came out for the World Cup qualifying?
Yeah.
Again, it's not going to be easy whoever we play against, but I think there is probably a best case and worst case scenario. Yeah. I don't really want to get the likes of France or Italy, but I think I wouldn't really mind playing Croatia again. But again, it's exciting. As a Scotland fan, I think I mentioned this in the podcast, my own podcast a couple of days ago. See, probably a couple of months ago, when international breaks came along, a lot of folk were thinking, I can't be bothered with this. But see now, I think there's actually genuine excitement among Scotland fans thinking, I look forward to this. And that's for the World Cup qualifiers. When that draw is made on the 13th of December, I'll be watching that, hooked to it. I am genuinely, as a Scotland fan, for the first time in a while, excited by the squad and what it could do. And I think, again, you have to give Clarke credit for that, because I think he's got credit at the bank.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think there is a wee bit of credit there from qualifying for the Euros, whether it's by default or not, and in terms, obviously, of 2 tournaments in a row, whether the first one's by default or not. I think there is that wee bit of credit there. But as we know, as football fans, we've all got short memories, and that credit doesn't necessarily last very long. If he doesn't get a result for these 2 games against Greece, I think the pressure's right back on him, and you will be looking to, the fans and the media will start a campaign again to get him replaced, and that's the kind of worry that is very, very fickle as football fans, and it can turn just as quickly either way. That's an issue.
Totally agree with that. Listen, we've just made a massive hurdle getting into that 3rd spot.
Yeah, 100%.
You look at the conversation last week, we were expecting not to win any of the games. A draw we're thinking would be great. There, as Graham said, we'll get 7 points out of the last 3 games. Excellent. So we move forward. Scotland is up. There's highs and lows, no matter what week it is with the Scotland team. There's always highs and lows. How many World Cups and things with my age have I looked forward to? And they're just a damp squib. They really are. I mean, I can go back to Ali's Army, and they prayed themselves around Hampden and God knows where else in a bus. All in earnest.
Yeah.
I'm not as old as that, mate. I can't remember that.
Unfortunately, I can as well. That was my first experience, probably, as a fan. But anyway, one of the stars of the show the other night, undoubtedly, was Andy Robertson. Andy Robertson, obviously, of Liverpool. Here you go. They're a seamless link. That was as seamless as I could manage. Obviously, he's been at Liverpool for a number of seasons. First choice left back still, getting up and down that left wing. But Liverpool, Graham, have started this season like a house on fire. Certainly helped by the fact that Man City, Arsenal, Aston Villa, the clubs who were second, third and fourth have faltered. But Liverpool are looking 5 points clear at the top of that English Premiership. Arne Slot, what a start for him. Certainly even better than what Klopp had, So as a Liverpool fan, you must be really, really excited about what's happening there.
Arne Slot. La 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 la. I'm loving life for a Liverpool fan. I just wish Hearts were as good as that. No, it's been fantastic. We've had that one slip against Nottingham Forest, but it's been seamless. I think it's been very good. There's been some games that have maybe not been overly impressive, but I think what he's done is, if you look at Ryan Gravenberch, for example, what he's done to that lad has been phenomenal. Gravenberch has been outstanding. Now, the one thing I think a lot of Liverpool fans like myself needed in the summer was a CDM. Gravenberch has come into that and taken out a good duck to what he's been outstanding. Again, Cody Gakpo looks a different player. Luis Diaz looks a different player. Mo Salah is just Mo Salah. He just does what he does. I think we've been outstanding so far. And yes, it does help that Arsenal and Man City have not been particularly great, but I don't care. Honestly, the job he's done, I think he's been brilliant. There's big games to come because we've got Real Madrid after Sunday when we've got Southampton. We've got Real Madrid and we've got Real Madrid and Man City coming up, both at Anfield. Two difficult games. But I've been very impressed. I love his interviews. I think it comes across a very knowledgeable guy. He doesn't get too up and get too down. I think he's very, very good with the players. And yeah, I've been so impressed. And I think the two players for me that have been most impressive, apart from Gravenberch and that as well, have been Kevin Kelleher and Ibrahim Konate. I've been so impressed with both of them. Kelleher's a good goalkeeper. To come in for a guy like Alisson, he's been outstanding. But I think Konate has been superb. He's been our best defender this season, even taking over from Van Dijk.
Yeah.
I've been so impressed. Can we win the title? I think we're definitely with a shout of it, but I've been so impressed with what we've done so far this season.
Yeah.
Well, the banana skin's always the match you've got on Sunday, because Southampton are rooted right at the bottom of the league and sitting with 4 points after 11 games. So you've got one extreme to the other. And doesn't matter in the Premier League. As you can see, there's games that both Man City and different other teams have lost to lesser opposition. And the thing, I've said it before a couple of times about the manager, it's not broken, so he didn't try to fix it. He came in here, he's got a mild manner, and he just seems to get on with the job. He knows the job it's needing done, and he goes in there and does it, the way I see it, quietly and effectively. And you see others in the touchline that are going berserk. The bottom line is he's got composure, and I like that. And I think that's a big plus in the board's selection, because that's where a lot of the teams are getting thrown into the gutter, as the board directors, whoever's made the appointment. And that is a fault. That's where half of these teams go wrong. They make the wrong appointment. This guy is a real thing in relation to getting Liverpool with a great opportunity to win the league. If he won the league, by the way, that exceeds anything that Klopp could have done in my eyes, because although Klopp was really magnificent, I think him coming in here straight away, he hits the ground running, and Liverpool have not looked back since, well, certainly the start of the season 11 games ago.
Yeah, I think we all know being the guy who replaces the guy is never an easy job. Let's look 30 mile up the road, Graham, and I'm sure that what's happening at Manchester United as a Liverpool fan must delight you. You know, they're still trying to replace the guy. You know, so if Arne Slot's come in right away and is that man who is replacing Klopp immediately, and I'm quite sure as Liverpool fans, you're managing to forget the kind of job that Jurgen Klopp done so far. Okay, it's only 11 games, but he really has stepped well into that role. And as you say, the way he's got the likes of Luis Diaz just looks like a different player. You know, I'm very, very excited every time I switch on the highlights of a Liverpool game just to watch Diaz, because I think he's an exceptional player.
Yeah, I like Diaz. I think he's, again, one of these guys that excites me. I think he's been fantastic this season, and given what he's had to deal with his father and stuff as well, I think he's been exceptional. And it is always difficult when you replace a legend like Jurgen Klopp, but he has come in and done a very good job. And like Dennis says there, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And he's not. You know, he's not really had a lot of work in the transfer window. They brought in Chiesa, who's been injured. He's got this Georgian goalkeeper coming in, who actually looks quite a good goalkeeper. But I think the fact that we all talked about the fact he needed a CDM, and he thought, do you know what, I've got Gravenberch here. And I honestly think Gravenberch has been outstanding. The job he's done with him has been exceptional. Yeah. To turn that guy into the player he is, it's been so impressive. And yeah, it's been fantastic. It has been seamless. Yes, there's a long way to go in the season. If we win the league, it probably would eclipse anything that Jurgen Klopp did. And it's funny when you hear like pundits or ex-professionals like Gary Neville and stuff saying, "Oh, Arne Slot wasn't Liverpool's first choice." How can you possibly know that? Yeah. Everybody said it was going to be Xabi Alonso. The only person in the interview was Arne Slot. Yeah. But apparently these ex-pundits and ex-players seem to know more about Liverpool than what everyone else does, which is funny to hear. But yeah, I think the job that Slot's done has been exceptional. And, you know, I'm disappointed we didn't beat Nottingham Forest, because if we had, we'd be in a far stronger position.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I go back to the players that he's turned around. I even go back to Curtis Jones, who's now a starter in the England team. I mean, the job that he's done in bringing these players through has been exceptional. And of course, we've got a guy like Mo Salah, who's a match winner on his day.
Brilliant.
I just think it's been fantastic so far this season. Yes, Dennis was right. Sunday's a difficult game against Southampton. These games can be, you look at it and think on paper that's an easy game, but it never is.
Yeah.
But if we can win this game, Man City have got Spurs at the weekend, which will not be easy. It's going to be very interesting. And I think come January, I'm kind of hoping that he might sign a couple of players just to help us along the way, because I don't think for me, the squad depth isn't quite right yet. If I look at the bench and think, who have we got to bring on here? Yeah. But apart from that, I think the job he's done has been so good. And it's his interviews. I love the way he comes across. Yeah. He comes across very intelligent, very articulate. I think he's a really good manager.
Yeah. And Dennis, in terms of what he's bringing out of these players, he's obviously one hell of a coach as well, you know. So, you know, it's all one picking a squad and tactics and styles and everything else. But what he must be doing with these players on the training pitch, you know, in terms of coaching, as Graham says, to bring on the likes of Gravenberch, to improve Luis Diaz, you know, the goalkeeper, Kelleher, has always been a wee bit shaky at times, you know, but he seems solid, you know, so his coaching is second to none.
Yeah, without actually being at the training ground, I mean, it all boils down to the performance on the park, which is, they're good to watch, and getting results out of it. The thing is, though, that if you switch the two around, and Liverpool were sitting there on 23 points, and Man City were in 28, we'd be saying the league's won now.
Yeah, that's the difference.
Smart about it. You know, there's 5 points there. I know it's no anymore. It's less than a 2-match swing, but the bottom line is, at that level, you're looking at it. Even if you go down through that league, there's virtually nothing right down with a gap more than a couple of points right down to 14th spot. So you know, there's a lot to play for. But I think the fact that Man City have slipped, it'll be very interesting to see just if they can pick themselves up. And when we talk quite a lot about the international break, this might be the thing that works for them. But having said that, 5:30 kickoff, Man City against Tottenham, who again are another team that really have got to start turning the corner, because they've dropped points as well. I think they lost to last time, was it?
Yeah.
Tottenham dropped points. So you look at, there's a big game for both teams, with Tottenham playing Man City.
Tottenham a side who definitely do blow hot and cold, you know. As you say, they go out and beat Man City in the cup event, and then obviously losing the league to Ipswich quite convincingly and quite comfortably, you know. Ipswich getting their first victory, you know. But Graham, looking at the top of that Premier League, I don't remember over the last 3 or 4 seasons there being such a gap after so few games, you know. Obviously the last few seasons we've had Arsenal, Manchester City and Liverpool sort of pretty much neck and neck, you know, and nip and tuck all the way virtually to the end of the season. There's such a large gap already between Liverpool and third place, you know, that a place in the top 2 is almost virtually assured.
I certainly hope so. And I think at the start of the season, a lot of folk actually didn't think Liverpool would do that well. And I get it, because it's a new manager. But we've just been kind of flying under the radar a little bit. A lot of folk thought it would be Man City and Arsenal. Again, I do understand that. Arsenal have fallen off massively, which I quite like, because I've got a mate that's an Arsenal fan, so I'm quite pleased that they're not doing that well. But yeah, it's been so impressive, and I just wish we hadn't lost to Nottingham Forest, because it would have been even better if we hadn't lost to that. But listen, it's football; these things can happen. But yeah, to have that gap already is fantastic. But I know there's a long way to go. I'm not getting under any illusions that we're going to win the league, because there's a long way to go. Yeah. And obviously, Guardiola's just signed a new deal at Man City, which is disappointing. But whether they get anything off these 115 charges, we'll see. But I'm not a massive fan of Mikel Arteta. I think he comes across a bit of a Poundland Pep. He seems to kind of, I don't know what it is with him. I don't like his arrogance at times. I don't know what he's done to deserve that. But they've been so poor. I think they'll beat Nottingham Forest, because they got Nottingham Forest this weekend. I think they'll win that game. But if we can finish in the top 2 in Arne Slot's first season, I think that's a massive, massive thing for us.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, we've had one transfer window. He's managed to bring in 2 players. I think it's been such a massive, massive improvement. I love Jurgen Klopp. What he did for us was really impressive. And if you look back at, obviously, Alex Ferguson left Man United, David Moyes came in, and it's just been a massive, massive decline since then. I don't know how Amaron's going to do. Hope he doesn't do well. But I genuinely think Arne Slot I've been so impressed with Arne Slot, what he's done, what he's got out of that team. And you can see the work ethic, you can see the players are playing for him, which is a big thing. Because it can be difficult to go to a club like Liverpool and get the players to back you, but they all have. They've all got into his philosophy, and I think that's a big, big thing.
Yeah. Well, I think Almiron, if we look at obviously what he's done at Sporting, I think he will turn things around if he gets some time at Manchester United, but it's a matter of getting that time. For sure, but when you look at the top of that Premier League, as I say, you've got Liverpool, you've got Man City, Chelsea, Arsenal, the aforementioned Forest, who's obviously beaten Liverpool and Manchester City this season, and then Brighton and Hove Albion, and again another seamless link, Graham. Brighton and Hove Albion, who your own club Hearts has just inked a deal with Jamestown Analytics, Tony Bloom's company there. So what does that mean to obviously your Tynecastle club, mate?
I am very excited. Now, I'm not for 1 minute going to say that we're going to win the league anytime soon, because I don't think we're going to. But what it will do, it will help us get in a better standard of player and sell for a profit. I think it's a good thing. Now, also, there's rumours that Tony Bloom is looking for a minor shareholding, and in return for that, he's going to put in a £10 million investment. I don't see how that can be a negative. Personally, Then we've got a big meeting, the shareholders meeting next month to talk about this. I'll be very disappointed if any Hearts fan turns that down, because it has to be a good thing for us.
Yeah.
Now, of course, the first thing we've got to do is get the position we're in. We're second bottom of the league, which is not a good thing. But I think this is a really good thing. Now, what I like is the fact that they've basically said that we're the only team in Scotland to be using this analytics, which again is another good thing. I'm excited by it. I genuinely am so excited by it. I look at the whole, I was under Romanoff and stuff. It was up with a basket case. Tony Bloom knows what he's doing. Look at what he's done with Brighton. Look at what he's done with Union Saint-Jean-Wa. He knows what he's doing. I hope that at their shareholders meeting next month that this goes through, because for me as a Hearts fan, this is something that I'm very excited about. Like I said, I'm not going to think we're going to win the league anytime soon, but to be able to sign a better standard of player and sell for a profit, I don't see how that's a bad thing.
No, I definitely can't see it either, Dennis. It can only be a positive for Hearts. I think any investment coming into Scottish football, if we're getting a £10 million investment into what by right should really be our third club in Scotland, argue whether it's them or Aberdeen, but a £10 million investment from an outsider, better than most, obviously, what happened down at Brighton. So, do you see any negatives in it at all?
Without knowing the total ins and outs of it, I really don't comment too much on the fact of other than it sounds a really, really good deal. But is he doing it for his own interest of Scottish football, or I don't know why he's investing in it, right? He's got his hands full with a team that is really flying high. The money that's been brought into that club by selling players like Ben White for 50 million, you could go on and on and on, has been outstanding. There's no question of doubt they have got the right formula in the way they're going forward. And it's not just that. When you look at Graham Potter and Billy Reid leaving, they've almost refreshed that team with fresh blood in it that are outstanding as well. So you say to yourself, what is the touch that they've got? It's obviously they've got great recruitment. Now, if that recruitment side of it can be taken and landed in Hearts' doorstep, as you say, Graham, a better quality of player, that's good. What I would be concerned with, and this is where I'm really in the dark with it, is if that investment is for Hearts to get the real benefit from it, i.e. a good player comes in and you just get the total resale of that player other than it going anywhere else, then I think it's a great deal. But I just wonder if there's anything that's in the small print that basically, because I'm pessimistic about everything, but I look at it and I'll be saying to myself, well, is there any grey areas here that, where's the pitfalls? I'd say I'd love to bring you on board. You're giving us £10 million. Where's the pitfalls? That's the first question I would have. And if he's right up front, because he doesn't need the money, and if he's really interested in supporting Hearts, I think it's magnificent. It really is.
Yeah.
And but again, it will come to fruition. And I think maybe more Scottish teams need to be looking at this formula and the way it goes, because we are in Scotland. The clubs are all selling the players. You can't survive anymore without it. So
Graham,
and the thing I feel
Dennis.
as well is, if we look at teams like Dumbarton, which we can maybe get a minute to talk on later on, I think we should be supporting more of them in the lower leagues, because they're self-sufficient, and I don't think there's enough done from the top end. And that's where maybe we could be, the English clubs even could help us out with farming players out and whatever. And that's maybe for another debate, another day. But I think the whole infrastructure, rather than just saying, there's £10 million to Hearts, we need to look at the bigger picture, so everybody gets the real benefit of people investing in clubs. Yeah.
Graham, obviously one of the fears probably would be in terms of what is his intentions. Has Tony Bloom put any money into like say Union St Galway or Como, do you know? Or is it just obviously on the back of Brighton and Hove Albion that he's looking to chuck some money at Hearts?
I don't think he's put money into those two clubs, but I think where this is probably different, and I completely understand where Dennis is coming from.
Yeah.
I completely understand his pessimism, but I think where I would look at this is from David Weir was at Hearts. He was also sport director at Brighton. He's got that link there. Yeah. Also look at Alec Cochrane, who was at Brighton. He was at Hearts. I think that's where maybe the link comes from. So I don't think this is. I would understand Dennis's point, and I completely get where he's coming from. But I think because we've got this link with Brighton with the whole Alec Cochrane and David Weir thing, I think that's where this is coming from. So I genuinely think if Tony Bloom was to come on board, I think it is from a case of he wants to do the best for Hearts. I think that's where that's coming from.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, again, that was Billy Reid and Graham Potter's era, was when David Weir was down there and he was in the background but producing great stuff. And he'll be working close with the chairman. And you're right, I think that's probably where it stemmed from. And the boy Cochrane getting farmed out, that all happened at that period. And it's maintained a decent level of contact. And he's obviously thought, but don't kid yourself, Hearts is a massive and big club in Scotland. Yeah. I mean, sometimes in the West it's forgotten that there's anybody other than Celtic and Rangers. Just a load of nonsense. Because I'm that good bit older, I can remember that Hibs and Hearts, Celtic and Rangers never went through to Gorgie or through Easter Road and expected to get results. They were real battles. Now you think, well, look where they are at the bottom of the league, and it's a foregone conclusion. So something needs to change to get the big teams back in line. And Hibs and Hearts are big teams. So anybody can bring a fresh injection, a new talent or money. You can't turn it down. Absolutely not.
100%. And I think when you look at what Hearts are doing behind the scene, the appointment of Graham Jones as sporting director, Graham, that's also got to be a big positive in terms of trying to take your club forward.
Yeah, absolutely. He's done well at, obviously, Scotland, and he's got a very good name. And I think he starts on Monday. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen. I think there's a lot of good stuff going on off the park at Hearts. Obviously, on the park is going to have to be better. I'm sure we'll touch on that in a minute. But yeah, I think off the park things are looking pretty good. And, you know, this whole Tony Bloom thing, I said it on my last podcast, I genuinely think it's a good thing for me. I think the fact that it's been a long time since I've seen Hearts being able to sign a player and sell for a profit. I've not seen that for a long, long time. This can only be a good thing for me. And I think a lot of Hearts fans feel the same way as well. So I think it's exciting times at Hearts off the pitch. Things have got to be better on the pitch. But yeah, I genuinely think that the whole Tony Bloom thing is a really good thing, not just for us, but Scottish football as well, because it's been so long. Now, fair play Aberdeen, they're doing a really good job this season, but it's been so long since I've seen anybody have a chance to possibly split the Old Firm or compete with the Old Firm, and I'm hoping this is what might happen. If it doesn't, it doesn't, but I genuinely think this can only be a good thing for me and for Scottish football.
Yeah, 100%.
what's your thoughts about the new manager? Because when you last joined, Graham, manager wasn't appointed yet. You were talking about, who you would like and who you wouldn't like. Are you quite happy with the man that you've got?
Anyone who knows me knows that I'm very honest and I'm very open. And at the time when Critchley was appointed, I wasn't for it. I thought it was a poor appointment. I thought, why have they gone down this route? But to be fair, I have to give him credit because I think he's had 7 games in 23 days. Mm-hmm. He's not had a lot of time on the training pitch. And what I've seen, I've been very impressed with. Performances have been far, far better. Under Naismith this season, I couldn't really see a style of football. I couldn't see a game plan. I can now. I've been very impressed with some of the games, like the 2 European games. We were brilliant. We should have won.
Yeah. Yes.
We beat Ammonia. The game against Heidenheim first half, I thought it was some of the best football I've seen Hearts play for a while, but we didn't take our chances. The game at Ibrox, I don't think I've seen any team, apart from Celtic, go Ibrox and dominate a game like that. But again, we didn't take our chances. And what I liked is, after the game, now if that was Stephen Naismith, he would have said, do you know what? We came here, blah, blah, blah. We did this, we did that. We didn't get the result. I like the fact that Critchley said after the game that he wants to change the mentality. He wants to be going everywhere and saying, we're not going to sit back. We're going to take the game to you. And I like that. And I'm seeing that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm more encouraged than I was a few weeks ago. Of course, the big one's tomorrow. This is the first time we've really had 2 weeks to prepare the team. But overall, I am genuinely impressed with what I've seen from Critchley so far. And I like the fact that he's got a game plan and a style of football, because I didn't see that before. So, yeah, I am far more encouraged than I was 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Yeah. Are you allowed it as late as that for tomorrow's game?
What was that, sorry?
Are you allowed out as late as that for tomorrow's game?
I don't know if I might get divorced, to be honest. I'm genuinely surprised the police have allowed this game to kick off at 7:45, to be honest, on a Saturday night. Yeah. But, I might change my opinion after 5 minutes if Celtic score first. I might switch over. I'm a celebrity. We'll see what happens tomorrow.
But I think when you look back in the last month, Hibs are still dragging their heels a little bit with David Gray. And he said the vote of confidence, which is normally the kiss of death. And really, I look at that and I go, I think that Hibs board is struggling. Now, Malky Mackay heads up that, and what his involvement is, I don't know. But I can't say that I've ever seen anything that he's actually done that has been beneficial to whatever club he's been at. Mm-hmm. And I'll not take it any further than that. But they're away to Dundee. And if they lose 2 or 3 goals, which that defence is possibly capable of, they must change the manager, because they're just going to get relegated if they don't.
Yeah.
So
I kind of said on the podcast as well that I think because David Gray is obviously a legend at Hibs,
yes,
that might buy him more time. But I said at the time that I thought the appointment was wrong. Just because you're a good player and you're a legend doesn't make you a good manager. And I think we're seeing that. And I think as well, if you look at every game Hibs have played, a lot of the games have actually played not that badly. But if you have a team that keeps conceding, you don't give yourself a chance. Yeah. And defensively, they are brutal. Against St Mirren before the break, they should have won. They should have lost 4 or 5-0. That Warren O'Hora is a terrible defender. And as well, I've said this to a couple of Hibs mates as well, who have agreed. Their goalkeeper, Bursic, is one of the worst keepers in the league. And if you can't keep clean sheets, you're in massive, massive trouble. Yeah. I genuinely don't think David Gray will be Hibs manager by Christmas. I just don't see them winning enough games. And I think because he's a legend and because he's obviously Sir David Gray, because what he did against Rangers, doesn't mean he's a good manager. Sorry. And I think that's showing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, though, when you look at it, although you're saying Christmas, I think you've been quite kind to the managerial position. We'll not talk about the guys in individual, but they're away to Kilmarnock. And before that, they've got Tuesday and they're at home to Aberdeen. Now, I look at it, and the 30th of November, if he's in a job, I will be amazed. Yeah. Because that's Dundee away on Saturday, tomorrow at 5:45. And Hibs on Tuesday night against Aberdeen. And then you've got Motherwell away on Saturday the 30th. I said Kilmarnock there. I was looking at the wrong tie.
Yeah.
So you've got Motherwell, and to be honest,
That's 3 difficult games.
correct. And that's the point I'm saying. They can't win easy games, and they're seating goals like nothing. And it's almost to the point, as I touched on the Scotland team, if you can't defend and you're not really scoring goals, which they're not a great deal, you're going to lose matches.
Yeah.
And I've said this for a year and a half now. That Hibs defence has been dire, and they've never brought a player in that you could actually say was fit for purpose to get them in a position that can go through a game without doing something drastic or conceding a lot of goals.
Yeah,
so,
indeed.
So I really feel for Hibs and David Gray. I know you'll not be interested in what my thoughts are on Hibs, Graham, but the bottom line is I like to see a good, strong Premier League. And it's done that because when we touch other games, I thought Kilmarnock were refreshing in the way he approached the game, Derek McInnes, because I've kicked him since the start of the season up until they played Celtic and he had a go at them. So I've seen things turning that little bit. You've got Aberdeen, you've got Hearts with a new manager, you've got Kilmarnock having an approach. And I'm just hoping something will kickstart at Hibs that we can see maybe better football.
It's funny because it's a bit like family fortunes. If you severed 100 folk start the season and said by the end of November who's going to be bottom 2, I don't think many folk would have said Hearts and Hibs. But that's the position we both found ourselves in.
Yeah, well, Ross County, St Johnstone all day long, wasn't it?
Well, but certainly after the first game of the season, you would have thought that Hearts were going to be contenders to maybe pip Rangers spot after the first game. But since then, it's just collapsed. Now, it could be European ties create a problem. I think we touched on that last week when Andy Millen was on, about the rest period and everything you've got after a game. Kilmarnock didn't do well at the start of the season when they were in Europe. They're now picking up a bit. Aberdeen, really going strong, but they started off well anyway. So there's 2 teams that have certainly buckled in and looking a bit better. Maybe if Hearts were out of Europe, it might do them the world a good, Graham, because the bottom line is, it is demanding, especially when you've got your own doorstep games to play that are so important. That you'll be judged on after Christmas. Who really cares for these Europa Leagues?
I think one of the biggest things, I think I mentioned this in the last podcast I was on, and again, thank you guys for having me on. It's much appreciated.
No, not at all, mate.
I love doing this podcast. And again, not just saying this because I'm on here, but you guys are really good at what you do. I've heard a lot of your podcasts. But I think one thing for me that I've mentioned to numerous people before about like mates as well is the former Lawrence Shankland. Now, again, you look at last season, 31 goals, season before that, 28 goals. He's got 1 this season. But I go back to his last few weeks. I don't think his performance has been that bad. Yeah. He's just not getting that luck in front of goal that he would have had last season. It seems like he's snatching at things. If I go back to the Heidenheim game a few weeks ago, the chance in the first few minutes, last season he buries that.
Yeah.
This season, it feels like he's snatching at chances that he didn't do last season.
Desperation.
He needs something to go for him. Now, hopefully that's tomorrow, because he is getting chances. He's just not as clinical as he was last season. But his overall game's not been that bad. He just needs something to go for him. And I hope that happens tomorrow. And again, I'll go back to, I'm sorry to rabble on.
No, why run, mate? Not a problem.
I go back to the whole Kenny Vargas situation as well, where he was international duty and he's basically said that he wants to leave in January and he wants to play in a better league. You've proved nothing yet at Hearts. You've been here for a season. You need to do more than what you're doing so far, and you cannot miss. You cannot miss chances that you've had against Aberdeen and Rangers and then say you want to play against a better standard of player. Now, he did say in his Instagram page that he wants to stay at Hearts. He's committed. You have to go and prove that tomorrow. If you start, you cannot afford to miss the chances that you've done, because you've done nothing to say that you want to leave in January. So, sorry to ramble on, but just
not a problem. It's great to see that passion with fans. That's for definite, which is part of the reason we have you on, in terms of obviously talking passionately about your side. But we've got 3 or 4 minutes left, Dennis, and obviously we'll look at the fixtures, and guys, as always in association with at kits_Scotland. Where you can get kits for obviously you or your kid, and certainly with the run up to Christmas, it's always somewhere to go look for your favourite football top. I see they've got the new Argentina kit there as well, you know, so as well as obviously Hearts kits there too. But Dennis, in terms of, we'll very, very quickly run through the fixtures that we have this weekend. We've got 3 or 4 minutes, as I say, to do that.
Premier League, we've got Rangers against Dundee United, Ross County Motherwell, St Johnstone Kilmarnock, St Mirren Aberdeen, Dundee Hibs, and Hearts have got Celtic.
Well, late kick-off
until you get to Dundee, and Dundee are playing Hibs at 5:45, and then I've never I tell you, look at this 3 or 4 times. Hearts are playing Celtic at Tynecastle at 7:45 p.m. in Edinburgh. What's that about?
Right, Graham, quickly, why is that? I know a number of weeks ago we questioned why Rangers had a late fixture, and that was down to the Great Scottish Run or something like that. So why is it that this game's kicking off at 7:45 on a Saturday night?
I've no idea. Anyway, there is a game on Tuesday, as I touched on. Hibs have got Aberdeen at home. So I'll tell you what, there's good ties there to be watching over the weekend, and it doesn't affect me because I look at it and go, well, you've just got to try and toss a coin at whether you're watching something else other than the Hearts game. But we'll move on to the Championship if you want. Yeah, sorry, Graham.
No, I was going to say, I think tomorrow is a massive, massive game for Rangers. They're under massive pressure. They're not playing that well. I generally would not be surprised if United went there and got something out of that game, because I don't think Rangers have been particularly great.
No, struggled against my number a couple of weeks ago, so Well,
it could put them the same points difference as Dundee United, so you then begin to think maybe the Rangers manager would be better actually applying for the Belgium job if the guy gets the sack, rather than waiting and saying, I'll just stay here. I don't know if you'd heard that it was mentioned.
I was linked with that,
Anyway, I don't want to get into Rangers tonight. I just think let them get on with it for the game against Dundee United, and hopefully I can come on and say something nice about them. If we look at this game today in the Championship, which is Queen's Park, and it's started and it's nothing each after 13 minutes. We have for tomorrow fixtures, we've got Airdrie, we've got Livingston, Ayr United, Dunfermline Athletic, Morton have Partick Thistle, and Hamilton Accies have Wraith Rovers. Don't know if you want to add to that, Cammy.
A couple of interesting ties. Obviously, Falkirk tonight need to sort of get on the bandwagon again after the losing last week to Livingston. And Livingston obviously now narrowed that gap to 3 points. So, that's looking good at the top of that Championship.
Well, Andy Millen did say last week when he was on the programme that the best team he'd seen was Livingston. And if you were a betting man, you maybe should have went with that. Airdrie's still rooted at the bottom of the league. I don't know what you do with that. They're just struggling, and I think
they're pretty much
a few more games for them to be relegated. I know it sounds ridiculous, but they're definitely gone. 5 points from 14 games is horrendous.
Yeah, they've resigned themselves to finishing foot of the table and rebuilding for next season, I think, already, Graham.
Yeah, I'm really disappointed because I really do like Reece McCabe. I thought they put some really good stuff last season. Yeah. They've been the most disappointing team for me this season. I generally expected better of them this season.
Lost a lot of players, but still, it is what it is.
And we're looking at leagues, so the bottom line is it tells its own story.
Yeah.
If you look into the
League One,
you've got Alloa, Dumbarton, Cove Rangers, Stenhousemuir, Kelty, Arbroath, Montrose, Annan Athletic, and Queen of the South of Inverness, Cally Thistle. Kelty obviously doing brilliant this season. Can't believe how well they're actually doing. I know they've lost a couple there, but doing exceptionally well.
That'll be a good game tomorrow.
Yeah. Moving into your division, Cammy, that you've got most interest in. Bonnyrigg Rose, Stirling Albion, Edinburgh City, East Fife, Forfar, Peterhead, Spartans have Stranraer. So I don't know, what's your thoughts on any of the games there?
Well, Clyde's supposed to be up at Elgin, but as we mentioned earlier on, possibly that game could well be off.
That's why it's on my screen.
Aye, which could be a shame, obviously, after last week Clyde getting their second victory of the season. Pretty convincing 3-1 home victory against East Fife. Certainly their best performance this season, the best performance under a new manager, So, filled with a wee bit of hope coming out last week. So, should hopefully turn it around and see what happens. They're still sitting second bottom, but the way results went. But hey, that's what it is.
But Cam, if you get 2 games back to back, you're up just below Edinburgh City and equal 18 points.
Yeah,
So
and
I
if,
know it's ifs and buts if other teams lose, but I'll tell you what, you're going the right way. You certainly weren't going the right way before you get changed
No,
to
no.
manager. But you're
well,
certainly
that's it, you know. So Darren Young's done really, really well. Changed the style of play. I think we're more adventurous, less laborious as well, you know. And Graham, I know the last time we were on, we were both mulling over the fact that we couldn't get anybody to put the ball in the back of the net. Jordan Allen started doing that now regularly for Clyde, so I think things are looking up a wee bit, certainly for us. So hopefully the tide turns as well for your own side as well there, Graham.
I certainly hope so. I mean, it can't get any worse than it has been this season. So yeah. I certainly hope it's going to change.
No bother, no problem. Well, as we come to the end of the show, Graham, first of all, thanks very much again for joining. As I say, it's always good to have you on. But 3 or 4 times tonight you mentioned your own podcast. Now, for anybody who's listening and does want to find another cracking football podcast, where can people find you? Where can people find you online, etc.?
So we are called The Locker Room. We're on Independence Live, which is on YouTube. You can watch us every Friday, 5 till 7, and every Sunday, 3 till 5. We did a podcast on Wednesday with the guys at Behind the Whistles podcast with 2 ex-referees, which was really good. So, yeah, you can join us on that.
Yeah, no bother. And online?
We are at, I think it's, if you look on X, we're on at Locker Room Indie. You can follow us on that.
No bother. Well, that's where to find them.
Yeah, and just to make a point, we've got 3 of the Scottish teams are still in Europe for this week. So good luck to the Scottish teams, and it's something we can expand on after the results next week. Yeah,
we will do. Well, guys, thanks very much for joining us. I really do appreciate it. We'll try to keep it as close to the hour tonight as we possibly could. Some of us have got work in the morning, so I'll be at my bed and in fact, I'll be in my bed and then back out again in 5.5 hours to get to work. But you've been listening to the Friday Night Football Pitch with myself, Cameron McDonald, co-host Dennis Newell, and as I say, very, very great thanks to Graham Duthie for joining us tonight. As always, guys, it's always happening on the pitch. Good night.